Welcome to episode 451 of the Recruitment Marketing and Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Sharon Newey. Now today, the Superfast Girls are excited to welcome back a special guest, Cheryl Winger, the founder of GSR2R and a veteran rec-to-rec specialist with well over 25 years of experience. Now, Cheryl offers some unique insights into how the recruitment landscape has evolved through 2024 and what to expect in 2025. Now, our conversation explores the shifting dynamics in recruiter hiring, from the impact of things like hybrid working to changing motivations among experienced recruiters. She reveals why top performers are increasingly mobile in today's market, and also why purpose and values are often as important as pure financial incentives for some recruiters. We also discuss the growing influence of the Gen Z generation in our industry, with projections suggesting that they will make up 42% of the recruitment workforce by just 2028. Now, with the backdrop of an uncertain economic climate, Cheryl shares practical strategies for recruitment owners looking to attract and retain talent. She emphasizes the importance of having a clear value proposition, a strong employer brand, as well as flexible working policies that balance the business needs with employee preferences. So this conversation provides valuable insights for recruitment leaders navigating the challenges of talent acquisition in a transforming industry. So let's get started.
Welcome to the Recruitment Marketing and Sales Podcast. An obsessive focus on marketing and sales is the only way to accelerate your company growth. So listen in now as we share the latest strategies and techniques guaranteed to deliver you more placements and profits.
Hi, Cheryl, and welcome back to the Recruitment Marketing and Sales Podcast. It's great to have you back for today's conversation.
Thanks, Sharon, and it's really nice to have me. Thank you.
Now, there will be people, obviously, that are familiar with you from our previous conversations, and we will have new listeners as well. So maybe before we dive into today's chat, could you just give our listeners a brief introduction to Cheryl Winger, the whiz expert in recruiting recruiters and lots of other things?
That's a really nice intro to start with. Thanks, Sharon. Yes, so we are a partner really to the recruitment market at GSR2R. I've been recruiting recruiters for 25 years. And for about the last 5 years, we've also been working with businesses directly who want to actually bring recruiters in themselves. So we offer the two different services now, with the ability that we wanted to really be able to help everybody. And people want different services. They want to give it to a rec-to-rec. And sometimes they want to be in control themselves. But obviously being able to do that with our methodologies really helps. So I think rather than just a traditional rec-to-rec, we're a partner in hiring really when it comes to attracting, bringing in and retaining the best talent in recruitment.
Absolutely. And lots has been happening in the recruitment markets. So you spend your days working with businesses in various capacities and broadly across the UK now as well. So I guess it'd be interesting to just maybe get your perspective on how have you seen the market evolve this year, perhaps, compared to previous years?
It's a good question, actually, Sharon. And I think, look, just to start with, I have to be really sort of authentic about this. It's been tough for recruitment. I feel like this has been a year of ups and downs. And definitely one of the things that my clients are reporting is they've had personal best months this year, and everyone's been really positive. And then 2 months later, they've seen some things happen in the market that will make them realise that it's slowing down or it's not so buoyant again. So I think what everyone's looking for, we've missed this year, is definitely consistency.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
And I think that's what we're all looking forward to for 2025. I think this is our wish list. So I think it's been tough. I think also we're on the back of some more change that we've seen in the recruitment market than we have in my 25 years post-COVID.
Yeah.
So I think it's also tough because this has been going on for so long now. And when we've been in recessions before, we go in, we come out, it gets better. We see the cycle. Where right now, I think we're just still stopping and waiting to see what happens. Although on a real positive side, what we have seen, and this is what I love about recruitment businesses actually, is the move forward with new things. So there's been a lot of growth of businesses bringing in new sectors. Yeah. Maybe looking at what other services they can give to their existing clients. So rather than rely on the revenue that's coming in to be able to hit budgets and targets, they've actually looked at new ways to do that. And I guess as a rep to rec, that's where we've come in. Yes. Because we've been placing like really good individuals who will build new sectors and new desks for people. Yeah. So it's definitely been a year of, yes, it hasn't been as easy as it's been before and there's been lots of challenges, but also they've took those and put some positivity out of it as well.
I mean, so I guess building on that with those challenges and everything else that the industry is grappling with, I suppose, when you think forward to 2025, and I'm sure you've been having conversation with the clients about this as well, what do you see perhaps will be some of the challenges that they will be facing as an industry next year and maybe a little bit beyond?
When it comes to bringing in recruiters and hiring?
Yeah, and just that hiring market within recruitment,
I think the landscape's definitely changing because up until maybe last year, or actually definitely up until 2020, I always would have said to you, the number one challenge always is being able to attract recruiters, getting them through the door. But actually, that's not the number one challenge anymore because people do tend to move in a tougher market.
Yeah.
You know, recruiters have got one eye open on what's happening right now with their competitors. So I would say the challenges that we've definitely seen this year that will probably go into next year will be things like being able to balance hybrid working. So there's a lot of going on around what business owners want to happen versus what their teams want versus bringing in new people. I think they've also got to balance that of being able to bring in sort of trainees and new people into the business that they might want in the office a lot versus bringing in experienced people that are going to build out these new things for them because they have market experience, etc., who might not want to be in the office so much. Yeah. So I think that's definitely an ongoing problem. And I speak to a lot of business owners about tackling that individually for them. I think the other thing when it comes to hiring is really being able to hire people who can do BD.
Yes. I think when I think of a lot of the conversations that I have, some of my conversation about marketing, but we never have a marketing conversation without talking about BD and the number of companies that I have talked to this year who, because things were so great on the bounce back post COVID, that just got out the habit of BD.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually, if you think about it, any recruiter that joined the industry in 2001, 2002, that might now have 3-4 years experience, may never have had to do BD.
And never been trained in it.
Right, absolutely. And possibly right now what we're hearing is they don't want to do it. So people are having to buy in that experience. That is more expensive as a business to be able to do that. So I think really being able to bring in those really good 360 all-round recruiters and possibly that have networks that can bring people in for you as well, new clients. I mean,
sorry, you're just going to finish.
I was going to say, absolutely. From a point of view with your clients, 100% marketing is what they need to do with BD. Bringing in my great recruiters is excellent, but they have to have your marketing with them for success in today's market.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about perhaps trainees. So I was reading a report recently about by the end of next year, 2025, 25% of the marketplace, 25% of employees globally are going to be Gen Z. And so you were talking about perhaps balancing people who want to work from home, people want that flexibility, but perhaps having trainees in the office because there are benefits of that as well. When you think about that whole Gen Z conversation, what are some of the considerations that perhaps companies need to think and how can they work with Gen Z? Because, that Gen Z can get some bad press, and yet they've been brought up in a different world to you and I, for sure. And yet how they use tech, we've got so much that we can learn from them. And yet I know that a lot of people perhaps may not quite know how to get the best out of working with that generation.
Absolutely. And I think some of the challenges also, Sharon, come from the fact that you might have 3 different generations in your office.
Yeah.
To do things differently. And actually, as the leader, it's your job to be able to bring them together. And that can be quite challenging. Just to think about your stat you had there, Sharon, I read recently that by 2028, which realistically is 3 years and a couple of weeks, 42% of our recruitment market employees are going to be Generation Z. So it's a really good question, because actually, if you're going to grow your business in the next 3 years, it's likely to be who you are hiring, and you've got to get on board. And you are absolutely right. They've had some really bad press, Gen Z, in our market, actually, and to the point that I think people are looking beyond hiring these people to what else they can do. But as we've just, it is something they've got to get on board with. And when you look into it, it's reported that over 50% of Gen Zs will have a side hustle that will make them money on top of their main job. And when you think about that kind of motivation, you think, actually, you're exactly the right kind of person we want in the recruitment market. You're actually having a side hustle and having your own business. So they absolutely can work in our market. And I do have companies that have really championed them and are doing really well. Top performers are coming from that generation. But we do have companies also that are having the challenges that most people know about, that I don't want to go to massively into and negative dread right now, but they are having problems with them. And something actually I just want to highlight before we go into what you can do, and I think a lot of people don't realise this, that Gen Z at the moment are like 26, 27. So actually, they could have 6-7 years in recruitment. They can be our recruitment managers at the moment. They're definitely our leaders, big billers. And it's not going to be long before they start opening their own companies.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people think about them coming in as trainees, but they're quite far into their recruitment career right now. They've definitely, if you think about it, if they joined 6 years ago, they've gone through 2 years of a normal market and 4 years of the up and down that we've all been through. So they would be the kind of people that people would want to hire right now, with a network to be able to move forward. I think if we look at the challenges first of where it could be going wrong, I think Gen Z are very entrepreneurial people. As you just said, they've been brought up with tech. They actually know no different, basically. If you're Gen Z, you've never lived without Amazon, basically. So you click, you get it. If you don't like it, you write a review. That's the whole world. And they are taking that sort of attitude into their workplace. So I think if you're a recruitment business and you've been working for a long time and you have your way of working and you're expecting that generation to come in and be directed in the way that you do it and for them just to repeat it, that's probably where the challenges are going to come.
Right. Yeah.
However, my companies that are championing these Gen Zs at the moment, they are using really good tech. And they're letting them find ways to shortcut things that maybe we haven't managed to yet or have taken us a long time.
Yeah.
Talking to my companies, one of the things they bring up when they talk about that generation is you really have to let them be heard. So their meetings are a lot around asking opinions, asking for advice. What would they do? Again, rather than just telling. And what they went on to say about that, because we surveyed them actually, was, and then you have to give them space to do what they want to do. And what they were saying was that to motivate that generation, it's more than money and targets. So KPIs, targets, and what they get on their pay packet is a really traditional method for what recruiters get given to motivate them. And they will want that in their pay packet. But they'll want it to come from the purpose of the business, the values of the business, and the deal and the money to come from how much of a difference they've made to that client and that candidate. So my companies that are doing really well are fostering cultures around, this is our purpose, this is what we do, this is why we're important, these are the changes we're making.
Right.
rather than if you get one more deal, you'll get another £1,000.
Right.
So that we're still doing the same job,
Mm.
but how they're talking about it and what's becoming important, I think needs to change.
And I think the other thing, listening to you talk about that, is that the outcome, let's say, of matching a candidate with the right potential new company, an employer, the outcome's the same, but perhaps how they get there, just the tools that they might use, potentially is going to be different. And that it's having that little bit of freedom for them to navigate that and create a different way of doing it. I think that's kind of like what I'm hearing. There's no right or wrong way. There's an effective way, absolutely. But if someone's got X number of years of experience and their way of working is working and it's still delivering, it's still adding value, well, then that's fine. It's working for them, but it doesn't mean to say that it's going to work for somebody else, does it? And I
absolutely,
think,
yeah. And I think what we're saying is, if your business works one way, and my business is probably a bit like that actually, if you bring these people in, I mean, and you've got to find this out on the interview stage, right? So your interview stage has got to be highlight this. Yeah. But if you bring them in on these are the 5 things we're going to teach you to do, then you might find you'll get some pushback on that. Where a lot of this generation are choosing to go into businesses where they're working with clients that are growing fast. So therefore, we're working with conception clients to get in their first 100 people. And that's excited and that's purpose driven. Right. And that might bring X amount of billings, but they're not just working towards the billings. You'll find a lot of that generation will want to go into healthcare recruitment or education because they feel like they're aligned to that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and generalise and say there's none of them out there that is going to want to work 100K and buy the house in the first year that we all came into recruitment to do many moons ago. But I think if we're looking at the majority and when we study them and you look at any papers about them, it is about values and purpose.
Yeah.
But I think our industry, full stop, and people hiring, that is more what we're hearing, even of different generations.
Yes.
I think that generation are coming with a voice when they talk about that.
Yeah. And they expect to see action as well, I think, is what I hear and experience. So go on, sorry.
I was going to say, because they're called the Amazon kids, right? So they click, they see, they get. I mean, that's action, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's kind of like flip it then for a second and go to, let's possibly a slightly different generation then of experience, because these can be experienced people as well. But when you think about experienced recruiters just generally then, what they're looking for, what are the main reasons, let's say, why they might be looking to move in what is kind of like still uncertain market in many ways? Because there was a time, we've worked together for years now, there was a time when people would sit tight. Yeah. So what's driving people to move today?
Look, I genuinely think COVID really changed our market when it came to recruiters moving. Say 20 years of recruiting recruiters up to COVID, you always saw it as difficult. My clients always said to me, I couldn't do your job. There's so few recruiters that move. And it was the number one pain point we heard all the time. We've hired one person because we've seen one person. There was no one on the market. And then in COVID, it was just like people went through their own personal journey, but it was all to do with what I've just gone back to: values, purpose, work-life balance. How do I have this amazing career, but be who I am as well? So I don't want to come in on the train anymore for an hour every day. That's 10 hours of my life a week where I could be doing something with my kids. And we really saw that. And what started to happen was that we had people call us up and say things like, I've just realised I'm not happy. I earn lots of money, but I just realised I'm not happy. So that real purpose thing started to come out of COVID.
Right.
And then I think recruiters are looking to move now. And if anyone gets my information from Saltoir, I've championed now for 2.5 years that top performing recruiters right now are moving. And if there's anybody that you have never really approached because you're in your competitors and they'll never leave, now is absolutely the time to approach them. And I would say all my clients have lost some of their top performers in the last 2 years, just to show you that recruiters really are looking.
Yeah.
So I think what's driving that is uncertainty in the businesses that they're in.
Right.
And that comes down to perception, to be honest with you, Sharon. I sometimes think, I don't know if that's a big enough reason to leave, but it'll be because they've made some more junior people redundant. Well, you and I as business owners know that's going to happen in this market, but that will unsettle your top performers. So I think actually communication is what's really key here.
Yeah.
And sometimes if communication isn't as brilliant as they want it to be, because I know businesses try their best, they will be calling us. But I think what's not up there, believe it or not, is money.
Interesting.
Yeah. Finance will be something they talk to us if they get to deal. Very few people come to us with I want 20% on my basic salary. It will be, I want to work with people that I really am inspired by. Words I hear a lot at the moment are, I want to work with my tribe. I want to work in a culture where I feel valued and we have the same purpose. And then the other thing we're definitely seeing people because of is hybrid flexi working.
Yes. And I think you mentioned right at the outset in terms of it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, isn't it, in terms of employers with this drive to get people back in the office. It's not what a lot of employees want. Not to the degree perhaps that employers want, days a week and stuff. And there's going to be a bit of a wrangle here. And also, we were talking at our recent Superfast Circle event about global talent shortage, and I shared lots of great information from the Manpower research that they do. This talent shortage that we've got, Cheryl, it's not going to go away in the next couple of years, is it? It's here to stay, and that's going to affect all kinds of employers, and it's going to affect recruitment companies as well. And so if you're really struggling for quality talent, then it will be interesting to see, how employers are pushed and recruitment owners are pushed to be more flexible.
Yeah.
When they might not want to be. So that's I don't know if you've got something that you want to speak into directly about that.
I just wanted to take a moment to connect with all of you amazing listeners. As you know, our podcast isn't sponsored and we pour our hearts into bringing you quality content for every single episode. Now, if you've been enjoying the show, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me at linkedin.com/Denise Oyston. That's Oyston. Just click that link, let's connect. And also a quick reminder that sharing our podcast or giving us a shout out on social goes a long way to helping grow our community and getting the message out there to all of the small recruitment companies and staffing companies and search companies that want to do well. Your support does mean the world to us and it helps us to continue doing what we love. So thanks for being part of the journey. Now, let's get back to that show.
I just think it's a really interesting scenario because, of course, in COVID, and we came out of COVID and we had the boom market, everyone was just like, okay, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, we're making money, it's all okay. And then, of course, the market got tougher and the first thing they wanted to do is bring their teams back. And I understand why. I understand why they want culture, they want motivation, they want people together, you want to bring in juniors, they're going to learn. But then I also talked to candidates who moved out of London and got a dog and had a different life, but are still performing really well. And I see both sides of the story, both sides of what people want. And I agree with both of them, actually. So what's happening is, I think some companies are having lots of different hybrid, depending on what they need. They're having fully remote plus office, and they're giving it like, what do you need? And but still having a community online for everybody.
Yes.
Some people are being very like, okay, back in the office 4 days a week, and therefore they're losing people. So I think the other thing is what we also did was we had true flexi hours at one point when the market was good. So, you could, as long as you did your hours a week or a day, it didn't matter if you did the school run or you went to the gym in the morning, and those things are changing. And I think it's a reason why people are leaving. But I also think, Sharon, what we've got to be really careful of, because you've just said something very real about the talent shortages, we've got to be attractive to bring people into our market. To be able to have experienced recruiters in 2, 3, 5 years' time. And probably the Generation Z, more than any market or any candidate, are the people who straight away go, how many times a week have I got to go into the office? So, because they've been brought up with flexibility, it's not new for them. So for them, it's well, this is how the world is.
Yeah.
So if we've got lots of people, and the bigger companies can be like this, that are in 5 days a week, they're not going to attract those people. So I wonder next year, as the market does get busier, because I know we all hope it happens, but there's some signs with my clients that, things have, we picked up more roles so far this month. So it is looking better. And as the traction of their clients come back with more roles, and they have to bring people in quickly, if they're going to have to relook at that again.
And so when you think about perhaps what experienced recruiters are looking for when they're looking to move, what's driving that decision, what they want from another employer, as an employer, are some of those expectations realistic? How do employers meet those needs in a way that meets the candidate need but meets the business need as well? Because the office hour hybrid, that's only one element of the overall offer,
the purpose and the why and everything. And I agree. And actually, Sharon, when we work directly with clients and we always have a strategy call, the number one thing I say to them is, if your offering doesn't match what the candidate's looking for, you're not going to get off the starting blocks when it comes to hiring, or you are going to hire, but they're going to leave quite quickly and you're going to waste money and go in that circle, basically. So it's a really good question that's really important. What I would really encourage businesses to do is to just sit down and really think about what our offering is. Like, what for the clients and candidates that we work with, what do we need to be? What do we need to look like? So we're there for them. But then internally, what structure can we put together that might be slightly different than where we are? That means that we're going to attract the best people. It means that we're going to be okay to bring in a graduate and a trainee, and it's going to be okay to bring in someone with 15 years who's going to bring in new business to us. And you absolutely can do that, by the way. But like you'd sit down and talk about your BD strategy, or you'd talk about your candidate generation strategy, you've got to sit down and actually talk about what it is internally you want to look like, and then how you bring people in. And actually working with people, Sharon, I think very few people take the time to do that, because they just are what they are. And every time they see somebody, they might just move the jigsaw puzzle a little bit. But that purpose and culture I've been talking about that people want to join, that's actually what you really need to work out and be able to talk about in the interview process, because that will get you top performing recruiters more than a 5K on their basic.
Right. In a way, I'm quite heartened to hear that when you think about the economic environment that we're in as well, that I know the price rises and inflation's kind of dropped a little bit, but we're still seeing price rises. Everybody's pockets pinched a little bit more, but yet while we all need cash in our bank accounts to pay all those bills, that there are other things that's driving, let's say, people's choices around where they take their talent and everything. Just thinking then about, you touched on earlier when we were talking about Gen Z, about technology. Just kind of like briefly, I mean, what have you seen in terms of that focus on technology and how people are embracing it and the impact that it's making?
Definitely. Cheryl, I'm going to answer that question, but can I just quickly go back to the finance? Because what I don't want to do is be like, oh, recruiters don't want money anymore. Don't worry about it. Give them 10K basics. That's not what I'm saying.
No, absolutely not. I get that.
I was going to say that. And actually, we're not seeing recruiters go backwards on their packages to go to people when it comes to basics. But we are seeing a more willingness of them to lose their OTE while they rebuild something. Right. And actually, we've just done our stats at the end of the year, and the average person we placed at GSR2R got an uplift of 15 to 30% this year, because they're building something, mainly 70%. I think it's 72% were building, and the other 28 were rehires. So, but what they're not doing is saying, they're not calling us and going, I'm underpaid.
Yes.
So when they become our candidate, of course, we start talking about money, and that becomes important. But the reasons that they're calling us are more emotional.
Yes,
let's be happy. Yeah. So I just wanted to make that really clear.
Great. I'm glad.
Yeah. I just wanted to make that really
Great.
clear.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want all your podcast listeners to be calling me saying, Cheryl, get me some great recruiters for 25k. I hear you're brilliant at it, because that would be stressful. But I think we need to talk about beyond the money, because so many people rely on, we'll just have the best commission structure and that's how we get people. So I just really want to bring that up.
Yeah. No.
Back to your technology question. Sorry, Sharon. Zag all over the place there. It's an interesting one, actually. People will ask, definitely around some LinkedIn tools, etc. I think for us, it's more when our clients say we have an excellent tech stack, and then they go through what their tech stack is. And it might be even that part of that is that they are working with you, Sharon, or that they're working with other external people, and they have a database that can track when people are opening emails, and LinkedIn Recruiter and SourceMan and all those things. And there's so many things on the market now.
There are.
So I think when our clients have that and we take that to candidates, they're really pleased about it.
Right.
There are, I don't want to particularly promote things on here, but the number one thing they all want, of course, is LinkedIn Recruiter. And, so we have people ring up and ask for that. And they will ask about their tech in the interview process, but I don't think it's not a point that we're hearing so many people talk about now that I need to start saying to people, you need to up what you're doing on your tech side.
Yeah. And I suppose while we're talking about that, when you think about marketing and the role that marketing plays in terms of generating demand, creating that visibility for the company, for the brand, that can help people with obviously personal branding. Is that how are candidates looking at how a company invests in marketing and how that helps them?
That's really important, actually, Sharon, because one of the things that has changed is I would speak to somebody 10 years ago and I would tell them what a great company I'm working with them, and they would have a chat with them. But now they go, let me check them out. So now my conversation with them is a part of it. Yeah. But if I have a really good conversation about a client and then they check them out and they haven't posted for a month, and there's no jobs on their website. I mean, that's something they really look at, by the way. And they come back and they say, no. So actually, and again, we teach this in direct. We're part of the job, but you now have to also work with us. So your join us page needs to be decent, basically, and not just an afterthought once you've done an amazing website, which I see quite a lot. Because really, your marketing, your join us page, everything is your shop window for recruiters.
Yeah.
And it's so visible now. And if you're not looking after your shop window, then they're not going to come and have a chat with you. And it's really important part of their cycle to decide who they're going to see. And on the flip side of that, Sharon, I'm sure everybody listening knows some companies that have high turnover of staff or just not the best, but their marketing is brilliant. Right. And therefore they're seeing the best recruiters. So it really is something I think, and I actually say, if your strategy and we've got your culture and what you're offering is brilliant and your marketing is really good, you're going to attract recruiters. You don't actually have to then do the next piece. And a lot of clients we've worked with, we've just changed those two steps and they've seen an uplift of recruiters. So when most people go straight to third, attraction, without one and two, and they go, it doesn't work. I know it doesn't, to be honest with you. No. So I hope I got over there, Sharon, actually, that when it comes to attracting recruiters, not just clients and candidates, doing marketing strategy around that piece is super important.
Yeah. Now, I am super conscious of time. I just got two quick questions. Yeah. I'll just slide those in. So thinking then about, let's say about skills, I'm curious, what perhaps are some of the core skills that you find yourself interviewing for today that maybe previously you haven't, or has it completely changed? And if so, how have things changed in terms of what you're interviewing for?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, Sharon. I think our interviews have definitely got longer because we need to know more these days.
Right.
I think I want to split that down into two bits, actually. If we look at actually what the client is asking for us to maybe give them more information around when it comes to skills, I mean, it'll be no surprise to anyone listening in this market that it's business development, really. Yeah. I'm really sort of drilling down on not just how and what they've done before, but if they actually enjoy it and how much time do they want to spend on it and how important it is to them. And I think also just looking at the different styles to make sure it matches the sector they're going to go in. I think we're also definitely talking more about the market and how they feel about it in interview and what they will do in today's market to still be successful.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I think clients are really, as we said before, they're growing and they are looking for people to come in and do things. However, I think they've just got to be 110% now. There's no margin to bring anybody in that's going to cost them money, drain their resources and not actually work out. So I think we're being quite honest about where the companies are, what's happening for them in this marketplace. And of course, there is some good things to talk about out there, but how they feel about that and what they want to do. So I think that's what we're doing more for the client side.
Right.
But I think for candidates, actually, it's not really interviewing more around skills, but it's more those softer things that we've talked about culture, who they're going to be working with, their purpose within a business. Traditionally, we've always talked about finances, how they build relationships, what they want to do in their career, what progression will look like. But now it's more, what's their purpose? How do they fit in? What's the company doing for the wider good? And that's obviously taking more time. I mean, I think the word happy is what a lot of our candidates are coming to us and saying, we want to be happy. And to identify that in an interview structure, what makes you happy at work takes time. So I think for the clients, it's around BD and motivation to do it. And with candidates, it's more taking time to really get to know what that culture piece is going to look like to make sure they stay.
Yes. Yeah. And do you find that that's where the emphasis, and is it might sound a strange thing to say this, but is it kind of like a harder sort of sell in terms of that? Because you're representing the client, and so you're the one that's communicating initially at the early stages what their vision is, what their mission is, what their values are. So you're having to talk about that. So do you find that you're having to spend more time almost doing the talking?
Yeah, I think we've got to listen to find out what's right for them. Right. And then, of course, we've got to come back with who offers that. What I would say on that, Sharon, actually, is where maybe pre-COVID, for every great recruiter that we met, we could get them 15 interviews. It was a bar fight to where they'd go. Yeah. I think now, because there's so many things that we have to think about that are softer, genuinely, when we meet people, there may be 2-3 people now that they can go to because we're really defining what's right. And that's always been part of GSR's plan. We make less deals, but good deals. And our average tender that people go out is 7 years. So we spend time around that, basically. Yeah, but I'd say what's happening is the choices are maybe slightly less, but that's also the market we're in, because not everybody's hiring.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so just kind of like thinking then, because I know we can probably both carry on talking an awful lot about this. If a company are hiring in 2025, okay, and I'm going to kind of like press you on this, but if you could narrow it down to what would be the 3 key things, the key insights that you could share that company really needs to think about to successfully hire next year.
Okay. That's a really good question as well, Sharon. So we're ending on some good ones here. Okay. I think number 1 is really think about your strategy to hire these people. Not we need people, let's go find them, straight to attraction, which I know I spoke about earlier. Very normal in a recruitment scenario. Yeah. What I mean by strategy is actually sit down and go, well, what generation are we bringing in? If we are bringing in Generation Z, which we've talked about, is our culture right for them? Do we have the right leaders in place? Are we going to be able to give them what they need to be really successful? Think about what your offering is in the market. What do you actually do that nobody else does? Why do people need to join you? So your strategy isn't for me who's going to do what in the process. It's actually let's sit down and really make sure our offering is brilliant, because you may think that your offering is great, but when did you last sense test that with what's actually happening in the market? And that's where people like me come in, that we can talk about that and make sure you're doing that. So number 1, get that sorted. Number 2, look at your interview process and who's part of it, and make sure you have a robust interview process that deals with fact rather than feeling, because there's nothing worse in this market than bringing somebody in that doesn't turn out to be this high performer you really want.
Yeah.
And I think more so than ever, we need to make sure that's happening. And so few people join the dots about the fact that that is your interview process. It's not that they turned out to be somebody different. That's your interview process. So
if something goes wrong, it's because something's not happened in that interview process, basically.
Or you haven't spotted something or asked the right questions around it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then lastly, and I think it's the really good news, good high-performing recruiters are moving. So if there's somebody in your competitors that you're like, I really want that person, but I would never go out and get them, this is the time to do it. It really is the time to do it. Again, I said earlier, recruiters are likely to move more in this market than in a really good market. So even if you're not ready to hire that person yet, I'd start talking to them.
Yes, because it can take time, and it's about checking people out and where they're at, and just maybe start nurturing. And also, if there is someone that you're really super keen on, then you need to kind of let them know, because they and invest some time in nurturing that person in the same way that we would nurture that recruiter would nurture a potential prospect and hire, isn't it? We don't just go in and, I know sometimes we do go in and pitch straight away, but people aren't always ready. So that's a great point. So strategy, interview process, and then approach people.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the interview process is something we've worked on so much in 2024 with clients because of that. It's not just finances, is it? It's reputation. Normally these people you hire are great and the team love them, but they're not performing. So it's really being able to make sure that everyone that walks through the door is going to be the person you spotted. And of course you're going to think, oh, we need to develop this. But it's good to be able to have your eyes open to what you're getting.
Yes, no, absolutely. And it's interesting just going back as well, thinking about point 3, in terms of who you might want to go and headhunt yourself, is that if you've not done the strategy bit at the outset to know, well, if we want to go and attract some of these competitors, top performers and things, have we got everything in place to attract that kind of person?
Absolutely. And what is it they want in today's market versus markets gone by? Because of course things have changed. I think, Sharon, we were on a call last week with one of your members who I'd done a strategy call with, and she said that she hired somebody amazing recently because we just changed her holidays. It's just small things like that make a real difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much again for your time. It's always great having conversations with you. I always walk away with lots of great insights, and I know that this will be really helpful for people listening. So thanks again for your time, and
You're welcome, Sharon. Great. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoy this podcast and this year you are ready to take your marketing to the next level, then check out Superfast Circle. This is a unique marketing program designed specifically for recruiters and their marketeers. You get access to 2 virtual marketing directors, you get consultancy, you get your hand held through the whole process, training, consulting, and we provide content resources. So go over to superfastrecruitment.co.uk/join and check out what's available.